Good morning, everyone. Welcome to CIS of Chicago CPS Remote Learning Guidelines and Google Meet tutorial. My name is Sukata Bell, she, her, hers, and I am the Senior School Partnership Specialist. We decided to do this today because we had some virtual meetups a couple of weeks ago, and some of our school partners had asked about additional information about how to use Google Meet. So we wanted to provide some of those helpful hints and tools for you this morning. I am joined today by my colleague, Kara Victorsen. She is the STEMpathy Initiative Manager, and she will also be leading the tutorial this morning. Before I pass it over to Kara, I would ask if each of the attendees could type your full names into the chat so that we can take attendance of who is taking part today. Good morning. All right, I'll go ahead and pass it on to Kara.
Great, thank you, Sukata. Good morning, everybody. Jessica has raised a hand. I'm assuming you're saying hi, but if not, just really quickly pop into the chat for us if you had a quick question. So yes, I am Kara Victorsen. I just wanted to go through a couple housekeepings. You're all automatically muted right now as you come in, just to make things a little bit easier because we know people are going to kind of pop in a little bit. But make sure if you do unmute yourself at some point that you do mute yourself again, just so that everybody can kind of hear, because there's always just little background noises. Also, if you're having any tech issues at all, go ahead and just pop into the chat and ask your tech questions in there. We're kind of going to be using a combination of chat and video today with my presentation. And you see me keep looking away because I have some notes on the side. And then just also a reminder, right, we're all in our homes. If somebody happens to walk by or a pet or anything, we totally understand. You know, there's no judgment here at all for any of those things. So I had mentioned earlier before we kind of previously started, this is going to kind of be a follow along. So if Google Meet is something that you want to learn how to use, which obviously you do since you're in here, you may, if you're able to, you may want to open up a Google browser at this time, because as I get into that part of it, you will be able to kind of follow along with what I'm doing to be able to set up a Google Meet and kind of be able to look at the things as I'm doing it. If you can't do that, say you're on your phone and you can't quite do that, this is being recorded, so you'll be able to kind of come back to this as well if for some reason you're taking notes on this isn't enough for you. So that's just a heads up for you. I'm also going to be sharing my screen a lot today, so just bear with me on that. It should go smoothly, but you just never know. I will also try to create pauses for you to be able to ask questions in the chat. If for some reason I don't create a pause at a time where you have a question, please feel free just to jump in the chat and ask the question. We have some people watching that chat who can kind of flag me down for that. And you'll see a couple links that pop into the chat as well for different things that I'm going to show you. Okay. Yes, I am going to start sharing right now, so give me a second here and bear with me. Okay. So, just in general information about Google Meet and follow along. As I said, my name is Kara Victorsen, Communities and Schools of Chicago. Kind of what we're going to cover today is I'm going to go through very briefly the CPS selecting a communication tool. I went through that whole document that they had sent out, and I found this specific document to be very useful. I'm going to show you how to download a grid extension for Google Meet and explain what that is and why you want to download that, and get you the link for that as well. I'm also going to show you how to start a Google Meet and how to create a safe link for Google Meet. And then we're going to go into Google Meet itself to look at some of the features of it. Some things are similar to Zoom, some things are not. So we're looking at, in general, how does it work? There's closed captioning, how to record, screen sharing, woo, that was hard to say, how to mute, unmute, setting expectations up for students on Google Meet. And then if there is time, I will go a little bit into Google Classroom, but we're going to try to focus on Google Meet first today, just because I know more people had a lot of questions about that. So this is kind of what I'm going to be referring back to as we go along. Before I get started, does anybody have any quick questions about this agenda or about what we're going to be doing today? Go ahead and hop into the chat if you do.
And also, Kara, I just wanted to also add that I will be attaching a Google form into the chat, a link where if you have additional questions or things that are not answered based on the agenda that's up, you can give your name and email address information so that we can reach out to connect you with Kara and she can answer those questions for you.
Yes, thank you for that reminder. And also, if you have a question that for some reason I don't have an answer to, because I am not the end-all be-all of Google Meet, please, still ask that question either in the chat or in that forum later, and I will make sure to get you an answer to that question. So if I say, I don't know the answer, I promise you I will seek that answer out for you. Okay. All right, so it doesn't seem like there's any questions right now, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share the CPS Selecting Communications tool. Do you all see that screen that says CPS Selecting a Communications tool? Can somebody give me a little thumbs up or a quick unmute and yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So selecting communications.
I'd like to see the agenda. I'm sorry. Is it on the left side?
Is what on the left side?
What you were just talking about.
I just put it up.
It's not the agenda. It's not creating a link.
You're seeing the agenda slide. Okay, give me a second. New share. And now you should be able to see it.
There we go. Okay, thanks.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, great. So selecting a communication tool. I'm not going to read all of this to you. I'm going to focus on the left-hand column, but this is a great resource for you to reference back to, and you will get this link into the chat as well. Okay, so basically it goes through something that you may want to do, or maybe somebody, if you're passing this on, that they may want to do with their students, and what Google tool to use for that. So if you want a video conference with students, it says use Google Meet or Google Live. To me, Google Live doesn't do a whole lot more than Google Meet, so I wouldn't mess around with that too much. I would just kind of do a Google Meet. If you want to start a class discussion, you can do that in Google Classroom. Again, that's something, if we have time today, I will cover a little bit on. If you want to help a student one-on-one in a chat, you can do Google Chat or Hangouts, it's called as well, depending on if you're on your phone or the computer. That's a great way to do it. Okay, and you can see all of these also have step-by-step instructions on the right column. Okay. If you want to talk to parents, this is, kind of your CPS guidelines, what you've been told to do. It says to use your email account through CPS. Okay, so that's, follow what you've been told to do for that. You want to share a video, so you don't necessarily want to create a video, but sharing a YouTube link or something like that, you can do that through Google Classroom or chat as well. Demonstrating something, Google Meet is a great option for that, as you can see right now. That's what I'm doing for you. Collaborating with other of your colleagues through Google Drive, you can all edit similar documents, or Google Meet as well. You can do similar to kind of like a Zoom meeting, but using Google. So this is a great tool, and we will get you this link, okay? Just to make sure that you have it. If it doesn't happen right now, we will get it to you at a certain time in an email later. I'm going to pause my share and see if I can copy this link into the chat, because I know Sukata is having some trouble. So I just put that into the chat, that link for you all. Okay. So what I want to do next is I'm going to do a new share. And I want to start to go through how you're going to actually create a Google Meet. Okay, so at this time, if you have a Google browser open, you may want to open one up. If you don't, if you're able to, go ahead and open that up. So I am starting from like the bare bones of the browser just to help. Some of you may know some of this, but we'll get started. So what you're going to do to get to Google Meet is you're going to click on the waffle, which is a new term that I learned, the waffle that is the Google Apps, okay? And this is where you can find your Gmail, your Drive, all of that. So you're probably familiar with this, and you're going to scroll down to the Google Meet option and just click on that. Okay. This opens up the whole Google Meet option, okay? This is where you can start your Google Meet meeting. Very simple. You click that join or start meeting, okay? And you're going to create a nickname for it. You know, obviously that's going to depend on everybody. If you want to do your class name, your department name. I'm doing just tutorial today, just because that's what we're doing. So we'll start that. Okay. So here's the important part. So once you hit start, okay, it's going to look like the screen. So it doesn't put you into that meeting right away, but you're going to have to click on join now in order to start your meeting. Okay, so I'll do that so that you can see, and automatically this screen is going to pop up. Okay, now our instinct is to hit this copy info, right, and share that out to everybody. If you are doing this with students, you do not want to copy that info to share it out. I'm going to actually show you how to create a safe link. If you don't create a safe link, students will be able to access your Google Meet after you've already ended it and exited, and they'll be able to go back in there if you just use this share copying info. So you do not want to do that. So you want to basically just completely X out of that. You don't want to share it from there, okay? Now, I'm going to switch my share screen real quick because I'm going to give you the setup for that safe link, okay? So I'm going to do new share. I'm going to go back. Okay, this was our agenda. But I'm going to go forward one. Okay, so right now you should be seeing creating a link. This is how you want to actually create the link that you're going to share with your students. Using this link, they will not be able to access the Google Meet once you have ended it. It's super important. So where it says insert nickname of Meet, so mine would be g.co/meet/ and then I would put tutorial in there because that's what I named my Meet. Okay. And then you can just copy and paste that right into a browser or into an email to your students, however you're contacting them, and they can use that link to access your Google Meet. Okay, this is super important. I know it seems strange, but again, just to kind of create that safe space where students aren't accessing a Meet with no adult in there. Okay. And I can get this link to you in the chat at some point as well. But so I want to pause for a second because I feel like I've given some quick information and just see if there's any questions right now about anything that I've showed you. I know it's been basics so far, but go ahead and where did I go again to access that creating? So this is a slide that I created. So you can literally just type this in here. I'm gonna pause my sharing here for a minute so that I can copy this down, okay, for you.
Kara,
yes.
I do have a question. Where did you go again to access the creating a link slide?
Yes, so that's a slide that I created.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to copy and paste that link into our chat here for you all so that you can copy that. And then where it says the insert nickname of Meet, that's where you would put yours. So for example, I'll kind of copy down what mine would be. Mine would be g.co/meet, and I'm typing this right into the chat so you'll see here in a second, /tutorial, because that was the nickname of my Meet. Does that make sense? Are there any other quick questions about starting a Meet or creating your link? Again, I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, but this link is like super important. I don't want you to get into the situation of your students accessing a Meet without you in there.
Kara, I just wanted to ask real quick. So the beginning part, g.co/meet/ and then whatever. So that will just so whatever you named when you're creating your Google Meet, and whatever you name it. Let's say I name it third grade class, right?
Mm-hmm.
So no matter what, you just use that beginning part of it and then /3rd grade class, and no matter what, Google will link that so that then you give this link out to your students, which is the safe link, and you just using that beginning portion of it with whatever you nicknamed your actual Google Meet. It will just link it to that. Is that correct? I just want to make sure.
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
Perfect.
So once you create this link and send it, then whoever clicks on that, they can access your Meet, is what happens.
Fantastic. So just using that beginning portion, right? And then, so let's say you're doing 3rd grade science and then 3rd grade math, just using that beginning portion, it will link, Google will link it to that.
Correct. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. I just wanted to clarify a little bit. Thank you so much.
Yes. No, thank you for asking.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
All right, I've been using it one-on-one with students. I'm a counselor, but now I have where it says to, name the thing that you just did.
Mm-hmm.
I press it, I just put in something, okay, or leave it blank, and I say continue, and it brings me to the meeting. It says
yes.
present or join now, and that's where I create my link.
No, so that's where you're actually in the meeting. You have to create this link on the side, like type it into a Word document or something to get the link. Like you actually have to type this link out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay, okay. So you have to type and create a link somewhere.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, because absolutely you're correct. When I go and I'll let me switch my screen here back to the Google Meet, right? It'll bring you right into this screen, right, where you're in the Google Meet when you hit that join. And so then you have to create that link so that other people, whether it's your counseling student or whatever, can get into this Meet.
Okay. Because I've just been sending invites, doing one-on-one, and then they respond and we just go right in.
Mm-hmm.
But to create it for a classroom or like a whole, I'm like, how do I do that? Okay, but that's what you're doing. Okay, we got
Correct.
it.
Yes, yes. And to be honest, you know, it might be smart to do with the one-on-ones as well, because I believe they can still access afterwards, and they may, and I'm not 100% sure on this next part, but they may be able to then invite other people into that with them.
Mm-hmm.
So, great. If I scheduled a meet, sorry, I see another question here in the chat. I'm just going to read it really quick. If I schedule a meet for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 to 11, will the students get invitations for those days? That is a great question. So you need to create separate links for each one of those meets. Again, those links create a safe environment, is the best way that I can describe it, so that students cannot access this room that you see on my screen right now without you being in there and having started it. Okay. Now, if you just share out the invitation or do that copy link information, even if you start it through Calendar, right, and create an invitation that way, they can still go back into that meet once you have left. Okay, so you really want to create separate links, yes, for each meet that you're going to do. And I know it seems annoying and daunting. It's very fast. Once you get a hang of it, I think, you know, it'll be simple. You just copy and paste that first part and add on your name. Again, it really is for the safety of the students, but it's also to protect yourself, right? Because if something happens in the meets, who knows what you would be held accountable for. Okay, so I see another question from Jessica. Go ahead, either type it in, Jessica, or unmute yourself.
Okay. Hi, yes, so I went into the Meet, and I see on your screen on the bottom, you have that option for the tutorial. You have your microphone, you know, camera on and off. For some reason, I'm not getting that option. I just have it on my right-hand side. I have the join now and present, but I can't.
Yes, so you want to click that join now, and then you will see the screen that I'm in.
That was my missing stuff. Okay, got it.
Okay, great. You're welcome. Any other questions? This is kind of like the most important part, right? You can't do anything else unless you actually can form a meet. Okay, so if you do have questions, please keep typing, or, you know, all of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some of these features, okay, in Google Meet. Again, some of them are similar to what we're using right now with our Zoom call. Some of them are a little bit different. Where you find the chat, so it's where I'm just going to go through where you can find some different things in Google Meet. So if you look at the top right-hand side of my screen, you'll see I have some different options. Okay, the chat is this little chat option here, and again, it'll pop up on the side of your screen. Right, so this part is simple, right? You type in questions just like we're doing right now, or you can ask a question to the class, you know, use the chat as you see fit. But that's where you would find that. If you then click on people, you can see who is in that meeting. Now, it's just me in this one, right? Because I haven't invited anybody. You know, I can click on myself, and typically the person's picture would pop up here if they have their camera on. Mine isn't showing currently because I'm using my camera for another app, right? But so that's very simply how you can find where the chat is, okay? So then you just click out of it to make it disappear. Okay, you can record a session. Now, I know CPS in their guidelines has said, you know, make sure you ask everybody before you record a session. Where you find that is these 3 dots on the bottom right-hand side where it says more options. Now, when I click on mine, I'm not going to have the record option, but you should have that on yours. So just double check if you're kind of walking through this with me that you do have that. If you click on it, okay, it gives you lots of these different options, and one of your options should be record. CPS has put that into their options, okay? So again, you could start recording the session, making sure first you've asked, right, or told whoever you're in the meeting with that you're gonna actually be recording, okay? Okay. Since I'm in here already, what I want to do is I want to show you turn on captions. I actually really absolutely love this feature in Google Meet. Where does the recorded session go? I'm not 100% sure. I read this yesterday. I forgot to write it down, but I believe it saves it into your Google Drive. That is something that I will double check for you on, but I believe it does save it as a file in your Google Drive that you can then access and post other places. Okay. So that's a great question.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt. You do also receive, it does save in your Google Drive, but you're going to also receive an email link for it as well. But
Great.
It goes into your drive, but you also will receive an email link if you want to forward that link to others.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I haven't saved any of mine. I've mostly been going through it for tutorials. I appreciate that. Okay, so as I'm in these 3 dots on the side as well, what I want to show you is this turn on captions. This is one of my favorite features of Google Meet because I think this kind of evens the playing field. As you can see, it's as I'm talking, typing out my words, this evens the playing field for some of our students with disabilities. And I think that's phenomenal. And this is, I think, one of the best features of Google Meet. I think it's also great if a student is having trouble with their technology and maybe they can't get their speakers to work. They can read what you're saying, or maybe, you know, they struggle with hearing. They can read what you're saying. So I think this is absolutely a wonderful, wonderful tool in Google Meet. So that's just something, and you can turn on and off. One thing though is when you record, it does not record the captions, unfortunately, is my understanding of it. So that's a little bit of a barrier, but it's still great for, you know, during the actual Meet live. There we go, that's what I was trying to say. Okay, I'm gonna turn this off so that you don't have to see everything that I've said. Okay, and it's very simple, right? You can do it on this button right here at the bottom, or you can do it through the 3 dots. But that's a phenomenal feature that I think is a game changer for a lot of students. I would like to pause real quick and just see if there's any questions that you all have right now. Feel free to either type them out or kind of quickly unmute yourself.
I do have a quick question. When when the students are using iPads, theirs don't show up as Google Meet. It shows up in the waffles as Google Hangout. Do we have to have them just put the Google Meet app on there, or will Hangout and Meet merge together, sync together?
So I believe they do need the Google Meet. Make sure, one, that's something I'll make sure to look into this too a little bit further. But make sure, one, that they are signing in through their CPS account because they won't necessarily have the Meet option if it's a personal account. Okay, Meet is a kind of a paid feature. That's the first one. And so then they should be able to download an app, I believe, from the store for Meet. And you want to make sure that you you have them do that, because they are two different Google products, even though they do similar things. I will look into specific iPad related issues or connections for you. But that's my understanding at the base level. Does that help a little?
Very much so. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other quick questions right now? Okay. Oh, I just saw one pop up. Let me see if I can. I've hidden my chat, so be patient with me. I'm trying to find it here. What I will do is I'm going to show you kind of some of the mute options. So muting is simple, but also has a caveat to it. So if you go into the chat and under people, you can mute anyone, okay? It doesn't give me the option, it's not gonna let me mute. You would just click here and you'd be able to mute them, okay? And it would show up with an option to mute. Now, the caveat here is you cannot unmute them. They have to unmute themselves. So how you can kind of go around this is kind of how I've had you do it a little bit today in the Zoom of, you know, saying, hey, I have a question in the chat, and then you can tell that person, go ahead and unmute yourself, right? So that's a little bit different, a little bit of a caveat to the muting aspect, but you still can have everybody muted. You just can't unmute them. Okay. You can screen share as well. Okay. Can you mute everyone before you start the meeting? Yes, there is an option as you go in that they are muted, and I can go find that for you, but yes. Great question. So you can also share your screen similar to how I have done in the Zoom, which is just the present now option here at the bottom. Okay. So again, they're just kind of called different things, but they're similar to what we're using. So if you hit present now, you can select your entire screen, or you can select a certain window, right? So when you hit select a certain window, that's where you can go through, right, and select which window you actually want to share with your meeting. So for example, if I wanted to share again my PowerPoint slideshow, I would click on that specific window and hit share, and boom, right, I am now sharing within my Google Meet, okay? You can see at the bottom here, that's where I can hit stop sharing, right, in my Google Meet. Okay. And then it goes back to normal. I saw a quick chat thing pop up, but are there any questions about the share? As you're thinking, I'm gonna share a few great things. Is the presenter visible? Yes.
I was just gonna repeat the question from the chat. Is the presenter visible as you are at the moment?
What do you mean by as I am? I'm a little confused by that question.
This is a question from the chat.
Right, yes. So right now, I am able to see your face as you're presenting. Can my face be visible as I'm presenting through Google Meets, or is this just a feature for Zoom?
That's a great question. I'm not 100% on that. I believe if you do want that, you'd have to download an extension that I'm going to give you a link to download for. I will double check on that. I don't want to give you a yes or no answer. I've done it a few times, but I'll be honest, that's not something that I was focusing on. So I will get an answer to you for that.
Thank you.
I apologize. Yeah.
And
Now
if
I
you're
know.
I was going to say, if you're trying to do it immediately, you can always use 2 screens. So for example, the reason I'm on here is because I want the extra information, but I've been doing mine from my phone, but I also join in from my iPad, and therefore they're able to see, they'll see me twice. So whenever I'm presenting from the iPad that's completely mute, and then they see me through the phone.
Right, yeah, and that's absolutely an option. And one of the other options too is if you're not presenting the grid extension that I'm going to give you, you'll be able to see everybody as well. Okay. One other great thing about screen share is, say, I know somebody earlier mentioned you're doing a one-on-one. Say you're doing a one-on-one, or one of the students is working on this great project and they can actually share their screen to this as well if you want them to, so that everybody can see what they're doing. Or say you're doing a one-on-one and that person is having a hard time with the technology, you can have them share their screen so you can kind of walk them through, right? This is, okay, click here, click here. So it's kind of an easy way to almost have a one-on-one tech support with someone as well if they're struggling maybe to find where their class information is, or claiming they are, but you know. So that's another great feature with the share screen as well. Any other questions right now? One thing I do want to just kind of show you, so you see this grid, that's because I have the extension, and I'm going to walk you through that here in a minute. If you don't have the grid extension, what happens is you can only see like little tiny pictures of people in this little chat area. With the grid extension, and again, I'm going to walk you through that, okay? It will, I know right now it doesn't look much different, but if there was another person, then it would grid out like we have in Zoom, and you would be able to see everybody, okay? And so everybody would have to, you know, download that extension for that ability, but it's a very easy thing to do. And like I said, I will walk you through that here in just a minute. But just gonna wait and see if you have any other questions. One thing I wanna cover as well, as I'm waiting for any questions to come through, is making sure that you're setting up rules for your students within the Meet. And this might be obvious to some of you, but just keeping in mind, right, if you have those same expectations and share them at the beginning, it'll make it a lot easier for students, you know. And things to think about is, you know, how do you want them to use the chat? I know some teachers don't want them to use the chat box at all. Some do want them to use the chat box. Or, you know, if you have several people, is it okay with you if they're eating during, or, you know, whatever, or do you not want them to be eating? That's just something to think about, making sure that you have them in the habit of muting themselves, right? Because they can unmute themselves. You can't do that. But making sure that they're in the habit of remuting after they've asked a question or anything. So kind of setting up those consistent expectations with them as well will really, really help. And it'll help kind of create more, you know, like a similar classroom, school even vibe, because they have expectations at the school and in the school buildings. And even if you're doing a one-on-one, having expectations for them of, you know, how you kind of want things to go. Any other questions before I jump out of this Google Meet screen? Because I'm going to share the grid extension with you next. All right, there don't appear to be any. I can always come back into this screen, okay? But I'm going to.
I have to leave now, I'm sorry.
That's okay, this will be recorded. Thank you for coming. If you have any other questions, you know, please feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you, ladies.
Okay. So I'm going to stop share for a moment. So what I'm kind of doing is I'm grabbing the grid extension information really quick. So the grid extension, again, makes it so that how you see us now, right, makes it so that you can do that in Google Meet, because it does not naturally have that. So you need to just download this quick grid extension, and let me grab onto that really fast. Sukata, do you have that quickly available? Otherwise I can grab it super fast. Perfect. Okay,
Yes,
so the
I'll put it in the chat.
grid extension was just put into the chat. Thank you. Grid extension was just put into the chat. So it's very simple. You click on that, okay, and I'm gonna walk you through this. So I'll start sharing my screen here in just a minute again, so that you can kind of see. Okay. So I'm gonna share my screen. Okay. If you copy and paste that link that is in the chat into your browser, you will see this pop up, the Google Meet grid view, okay? And you just simply have to add it to Chrome. Yes, so the link, unfortunately, we're having issues with getting the links hyperlinked, so you do have to highlight and copy the link and then paste it into your browser. That's something that for the past couple of days, for some reason, the links haven't been hyperlinking, so we apologize for that. But go ahead and copy and paste it into your browser, and it will pop up this. Now what happens is you click on the Add to Chrome option, okay? And again, this is something that anybody can do. It's very simple. You know, it's not a complicated thing, but it just allows for that grid option then. Okay. I just want to wait a minute to let people have the chance to copy and paste. I'm going to hit the Add to Chrome just so you can see. It's going to ask, okay, it can read. Basically what that's allowing it is to create the pictures into a grid. So add extension, okay, and then you can see that option pops up in the corner here, okay. So then whenever you're using Meet, that option should pop up automatically within your Meet, how I had it before. Okay. Any questions on this grid extension? Again, this is if you want to see everybody similar to how we do in a Zoom, you definitely need to download this grid extension. You can see it's very quick, it's very simple. Okay, I'm going to stop share. So that is the end of my basics for Google Meet. I want to see if there's any questions that you have about Google Meet at all. I know there's a few that I'm going to still be looking into and getting back to you on that, on the iPad information and on the presenter being visible if you only have one device. But does anybody have any questions about Google Meet?
And also for everyone, Kayla has also included the link into the chat, so folks may be able to click this link to pull up the grid.
Great.
I have a question. Where are we going to find this recording for the Zoom? So that, for example, I wanted the link. I'm trying to get the link, but I'm on Zoom, but I can't get it forwarded to my email. I don't know why, but I'm trying to get that so I can put this on the system, the grid extension. Will this be emailed to us, or we just have to take it directly from the chat?
We can definitely email it to the attendees who are attending this particular tutorial.
That's perfect. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
And this tutorial itself, I believe we are going to try to put it up on our CIS of Chicago YouTube as well, so that if this is something that you want to refer any of your coworkers or anybody to, it will be available there. And when that is available, you'll get hopefully an email sent out about that as well, if that's possible. I don't want to make promises that that our partnership team can't follow through with, but
well, I want to personally say thank you all in advance for whatever it is that you do to help us out.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to do this. So what I want to quickly do, I know we're kind of coming close to our time, but what I want to quickly do is kind of show you just Google Classroom, because you can link your Google Meet link. You can post that into a Google Classroom for that. So I'm going to just go through quickly how you can do that. So I'm going to share my screen again quick. And okay, so if we go back to your Google, right, and click on your waffle in the corner under the Google Apps, if you scroll down even further, you will have an option for Google Classroom. Okay, and you just have to click on that. Okay, this is very simple. You can see I already have a couple because I just been playing around with it. If you don't already have a classroom set up, you just hit the plus button and you can create a class. Okay, you agree to their terms, of course, right? And then you have to put your class name in. So again, whatever your class name in is, you can set this for groups of students if you're counseling. You can set this for specific classes. And then you can put in the specific information and you just hit create. Okay. It of course is going to take a little bit longer than it usually would. And then it pops this up. The most important thing here, so this is what the students are going to see in the classroom. They just aren't going to be able to do everything that you can do. So in order for students to join, this class code that's underneath the name here is what they're going to need. So how they do that, right, so you have to give this code to them. And how they would do that is they, let me go back a screen real quick. If they click this plus button, they hit create, or they hit join class, and they would then type in what that class code is, and they would be added into your classroom. Okay, so you have to give them that code that they would type in. Oop, I clicked on the wrong one. Okay.
Kara,
so, yes.
I have a question from the chat. How can I create a classroom where it shows the student perspective of the classroom?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is actually the student perspective of it. So for example, like I can put in a question here and hit post. And this is what a student will see. Okay, and they can comment on that question or say I added an assignment. Okay, you can link from a Google Drive assignment or a file or a YouTube, right? Then that will pop up here as well and they can click on that. So this is their view, okay? They just don't have the same editing capabilities that you will in your classroom, if that makes sense. Okay, and so then this is also where you can copy and paste, right? I think that's a lot, that Google Meet link for students, right? And then they can get into that Google Meet that you created. So this is a great place to kind of have that Google Meet, so they can kind of go in, click on that, right, and get it. Again, there's lots of other things that you can do in Google Classroom. I don't want to go all the way into it because it would take a while. But that's kind of the basics of it, of how to start it, how the students can join, and then basically it's very simple just to post in there. Are there any questions about this Google Classroom? And even if you have further questions, you can type them, or I can do more on a Google Classroom at a later date as well. I'm gonna stop share. Okay, so we're kind of heading towards the end. So if you have any questions or comments or confusions at this point, please either unmute yourself and ask, or in the chat, go ahead and type in your question or something that you would like to see or know about that I did not cover. Please take this time for that.
Thank you so much, Kara. I've also put the link for the form to additional questions if you have them. If you cannot click on that link, please copy and paste it. And as Kara said, we will follow up with you regarding your question. Thanks again for joining us. We appreciate your time. So yes, if there isn't anything else, I would just say have a good one and take in the sun.
Yes. Yes, thank you, everyone. And again, you know, if there's something I did not cover, please feel free to put that into that document as well. I'm happy, you know, I'll contact you, I promise, and I'll get back to you on some of those questions as well.
All right, thanks again. All right, bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.